Hello. Hello. We don't have a name for this yet. I was thinking on the car. I like the word preposterous. It's got good mouthfeel. I don't know how in use that word is, though. I've been listening to a lot of outlaw country. I go through phases. You know, it was Dutch pop rock from the 80s. It was the band Golden Earring for a little while. They were my obsession. Now it's outlaw country. The problem with outlaw country is you listen to these songs, these beautiful songs, and then someone will be like, hey, I like this. And you're listening to maybe Never Call Me By My Name by David Allan Coe. And they're like, hey, that's a beautiful song. And I go, it is. But don't Google him. For the love of God, do not Google that man. There's a lot of that in outlaw country, which is kind of unfair. First of all, why are we asking Hank Williams Jr. his opinions on Obama? Who thought that was a good idea? To ask a man who made a song called A Country Boy Can't Survive. You're setting everybody up for disaster at that point. Why would you do that? Don't ask him that. If you see a guy wearing overalls and no shoes, don't ask him what he thinks about gay marriage, you know? Especially if he's doing something you like singing a nice song or making food. Homophobes and racists make the best food. That's an unfortunate truth about the world. And Hank Williams Jr. can sing. Why are we asking him? Beethoven doesn't have to. Beethoven's legacy is very solid because no one has asked him what his opinions on Obama are or were. I think if you showed Beethoven like a Vietnamese guy, he would faint. You know? I don't think he's equipped to handle it. 20 years from now, you'll be able to listen to outlaw country guilt-free. But as of right now, I have to do it like I'm eating, you know, that one bird you're supposed to eat under a blanket so God doesn't see you kill one of its most beautiful creatures. I forget what that meal is called. I've never had it. But get into outlaw country. Don't Google them. Don't Google a single, do not Google any. A few of them you could. Johnny Paycheck is fine. He did shoot a man in a bar dispute over a hat, which personally I think is a completely valid reason to shoot another man. Don't put that on the record. Speaking of music, if aliens were to come to Earth and our responsibility was to show them one song that they would like, I think we should go with Kickstart My Heart by Motley Crue. And I'll tell you why. Because it has a universal meaning everyone can get behind. It's about speeding. You know, even aliens in their spaceship know about speeding. They've gone fast, even if they're traveling in some kind of weird, you know, Kurt Vonnegut alien way where it defies logic and time. They still know about going fast, right? It's a fun thing. Some of the aliens probably like it. Some of them are scared of it, and they make fun of them. That's the same way it is in our world. Aliens they'll listen to the song. They won't even understand. You can listen to Kickstart My Heart, not even speaking English, and be like, this song is about speeding. Maybe it's because of the guitar riff in the middle that sounds like an engine revving up. That could, even if you took that part out, if you just played the entirety of the song, Jeremy, help me out here. That song's about speeding, right? Or drugs, or speeding on speed. The aliens, we don't need to tell them about speed, the drug. We'll just tell them about speed going, 110 miles an hour. That's a great song. Everyone can get behind that song. You know, it's a universally understand. You show them a breakup song, aliens are going to be like, oh, we've surpassed a breakup. We do a Spock mind meld, and we state whatever gay thing they do. I'm just kidding. We'll bleep that out. But they'll understand speeding. I apologize for getting crass. They have to go. It's in the name, faster than light. They didn't crawl to Earth. You know, they weren't going. Also, that would be lame if the aliens that did show up to Earth are the aliens that were just, doing 40 miles an hour with their blinker on. We got the lame aliens. We need the faster than light zipping through. NASA's going to be like, hey, there's a spaceship doing about 20. They're near Pluto. It's going to take them a couple generations to get here. They seem pretty lame. Also, I feel like the aliens took a break from the probing. That was a big thing when I was a kid. I remember that when I was a kid. Aliens would pick people up, put stuff in their butt. You don't hear about that anymore. Now it's all DMT related. Now it's all I took DMT, and I like DMT. I don't want to go on a tangent about DMT. DMT is phenomenal. I like it. DMT is for anybody who doesn't know, it is essentially a one-way ticket to another dimension. And I don't mean that facetiously. I mean that 100%. See, that is what it is. You take DMT, you will go to Jeremy. Have you done DMT? I don't want to put your business on blast. I have a vape pen in my car. We'll do a couple hits. It's fantastic. You visit the other side, right? But I will say, when you visit the other side, you're on DMT, right? It's like going to a fancy restaurant, but you're drunk as shit. That's what DMT is like. You do it, and you end up in this other world where there's all these other creatures bathed in light, you know, doing all this fancy stuff. And here you are stumbling around, drunk as hell. It's like going, you ever go to the Chicago Art Institute and there's some hillbilly there who's way too drunk? That's what DMT is like. You're in a fancy restaurant on after drinking too many Mickey's grenades. Speaking of DMT, I watched a YouTube video where a couple got kicked out of a Renaissance fair and had the police called on them. Do you know how hard you have to work to get kicked out of a Renaissance fair? Do you know the amount of kind of depravity, the amount of bosoms and mead drinking and cosplay that happen? How hard, how trashy do you have to be to get kicked? Not only kicked out, I've seen the video. I'll put the, if I can figure it out, we'll put the video up.
On June 2nd, 2024, officers were on duty at a local Renaissance fair.
I don't understand what the problem is, officer.
I told you to go somewhere
I just wanted to learn how to juggle.
These people get kicked out of the Renaissance fair. They get trespassed from the Renaissance fair. Then they come back in a different outfit, like some kind of Batman henchman. Some kind of Batman villain henchman. They put on a new outfit. They come back to the Renaissance fair 20 or 30 minutes later, and then they get arrested. And the guy got kicked out of the Renaissance fair, the man got kicked out of the Renaissance fair for interrupting a juggler because he could juggle. Well, he claimed he could juggle. But he never juggled in the video, so we don't know. When two fat people walk by each other, sometimes their stomachs will rub together. And I just want to say that's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing that your average small person has never experienced. That is a romantic moment between two, possibly strangers. You know, there's that little bit of the suction cup from the navel against the skin. It's a beautiful thing. I talked about it earlier. It's like Spock, because you do a mind melt. When I rub stomach, that's how fat guys become friends. I've done this joke on stage, but it's not a joke. When fat people meet and they become friends, they take their shirts off, they rub their stomachs together, and they exchange memories. They live an entire lifetime in that brief few second. Exactly. Jeremy's shaking his stomach around. He knows exactly what I'm talking about. Sometimes my stomach will rub against a skinny person and it's a completely lost. It's an empty vessel. There's nothing going on in there. But a fat guy, me and Jeremy right now could touch stomachs and we would be in tears by the end of the experience because we would have lived each other's lived experiences. Do you understand what I'm telling you? It's a beautiful thing. Sometimes when people are talking to me, especially this happens when I converse with Italians and Greeks, or any people from the Mediterranean region who talk with their hands. Sometimes they'll slap a hand against my stomach and get really awkward, and I need to tell them it's fine. It's there. It's gonna get hit. You know, it's like a speed bag in boxing. It's gonna take some hits. It's fine. Continue on with the conversation. Let's not acknowledge it. I did mention earlier off camera I have diabetes. I just found out I have diabetes. I was doing a show earlier at a very smart play. It was a smart room. Sometimes I do a show. I stand there and I go, everyone in here is smart. I can read it. I can read that this is all Northwestern University of Chicago, because I went to Western Michigan University. I went to a college for stupid people. I went to a college that drank more than it learned, and that's fine. I learned a lot about myself. It was a great experience, but I'm not smart. I'm not inherently. I'm cocktail party smart. I can talk to you about one topic for 15 minutes, and that's it. But these people were smart. They were learned doctors. They weren't drinking. They were all there. They were drinking their little sparkling waters, great posture, and they were like, entertain me. And I told them I had diabetes, and they let out like a condescending rich person laugh. Because diabetes is a stupid people disease. No one takes that seriously. Smart people, FDR didn't have diabetes. He had polio. That's the ultimate smart person disease. Diabetes is on the other end, right? It's a stupid, oh, I ate too many cookies. You look preposterous. Now, there's several kinds of diabetes. There's type 1 diabetes, which is the kind you don't earn. That's trust fund diabetes. You inherit that one. That one comes from your parents, right? You didn't earn it. I earned mine. I earned mine through poor dietary choices. Frequent poor dietary choice. I earned that, you know? I have type 2. There's type 3, which you get if a fat guy bites you. So if you're ever in Culver's late at night and you hear howling or heavy breathing, get out of there. You're about to get bit. And then the next full moon, you'll have diabetes. The fourth kind is ghosts. You got it from fat ghosts. Now, if your apartment or dwelling or whatever has fat ghosts, you will know. Again, you're going to hear a lot of heavy breathing. You're going to see a lot, a sweaty ghost is still visible. They have that little, looks like ectoplasm. It's not. It's sweat, right? They're going to be, these ghosts are going to be opening your cabinets, your fridge. They can't eat anything because they've passed on, but they're going to be looking. They're curious to see what you have in there, right? And if you have fat ghosts and you want to get rid of it, you just got to exercise. That'll scare them away. Also, it'll take care of the first and the second kind of diabetes if that's a problem. I don't know why that tangent takes me to God. I had some religion. I'm Catholic. Jeremy, are you Catholic? Are you religious? You're Catholic? You got purple hair and you're Catholic. Look at that. The church is changing, ladies and gentlemen. I converted to Catholicism. You can do that. There's no paperwork involved. You don't need to go to the DMV. You just look to the heavens and you say, hey, I'm going to try something else. I might be back. That's fine. All the other religions, Amish people don't. Amish people have a whole thing. They have Rumspringa. They give you a chance to figure it out. They're like, hey, go out into the real world where there's strippers and cocaine and donuts and shit. And then go to Vegas. Don't go to Vegas, actually. If you're Amish and you're on Rumspringa, don't go to Vegas. You're going to be immediately overwhelmed. You're going to want to start small. Go to Scottsdale. The Wisconsin Dells. Great place to act a fool. The Wisconsin Dells. Slightly lawless. I don't know if you've been. I've never been to the Wisconsin Dells. I've heard stories. It's a good stepping stone. Yeah. Wisconsin, listen, and this is, if you're Amish, I want you to listen to this very carefully. If you're Amish and you're Rumspringa, start with the Wisconsin Dells, do Scottsdale, then do Vegas. And then do Amsterdam, if that's... I've only been to Vegas. I haven't been to any of those other places, so I'm not necessarily the good. But every time my phone dies, I become Amish. I start talking, 'tis a hard life, brethren. I say shit like that. I call myself Ishmael or whatever. But anybody can be. We could all be Amish for the next 15 minutes. We'll just be non-practicing. I was fresh off the boat when I was going to Catholic school, so they were like, you know what? Just put him in the booth. Just get him in there. We'll get him in there. He'll apologize for being foreign. That was the first thing I apologized for. I'm sorry. I was born Muslim. I don't think I'm supposed to be in this little room. They put you in a little room, and the priest is on the other side. It's very scary. It's scarier when you learn about some of those priests in Boston and what they were doing. I never got molested. Times have changed. I'm a big proponent of history. History's big right now, especially in comedy, because of that Shane Gillis. He's made history be popular again in stand-up, which I like, because I like talking about history. And I watch a lot of YouTube history stuff, and I read a lot of books, and in the books there's all these great pictures of like World War I, when all the royal families and generals and were taking pictures. There were wizards back then. Like you ever see a picture of like the Russian royal family and they got Rasputin there? That's a wizard. You look at that man and you're like, we'll put it on the screen. That is a fucking wizard. You take one look at Rasputin, and the Russians just had him on their side. He was giving them advice on World War I. That's not fair. No other country had a wizard just helping. Well, Jeremy, it sounds like you know something I don't. That's a great point. Jeremy said we did have Einstein. We did. But he's kind of, I would say, the philosophical opposite of a wizard. He was more a science wizard. Rasputin was a holy man. They had to kill him like 8 times before he died. And he had the biggest penis known to man. Those are the 2 facts about him that I know. All right, he was and he healed the Tsar's kids or whatever. I don't know. I don't know how hard it was. I don't know how easy or hard it was back then. Because I feel like back then you could just have pneumonia and it just naturally clears up. And whoever was in the room last with you is who's going to get all the credit for that. There's probably a lot of saints who were just at the right place at the right time. It just stopped raining. It's been raining for 8 days. Saint, I don't know. Lawrence goes out and he's like, claps his hand 3 times. It stops raining. Everyone's like, oh, he communed with God. No, he just got lucky. St. Lawrence actually also patron saint of comedians. Because they roasted him alive, and he said, turn me over, I'm finished on this side. Which I don't believe. I actually looked into this. I emailed my old priest, and I asked him what St. Lawrence's last words were, and it was actually, ah! No, that's a stupid joke. That's a real stupid joke. No, they just had a wizard just helping out. Just pitch, they go up to him and be like, hey, where should we put these tanks? And he does a hand gesture and he communes with the devil or whatever. That's not, could you imagine if Elon Musk had magic powers? That's the same situation. They had a guy there who no one wanted to be there, just talking, doing stuff, and everybody else was kind of pissed off about it, and he ended up being a wizard. That's crazy. Actually, I think if we had more wizards, it would make war a little more entertaining. Like if China and America, I don't think would ever get wizards. We would do what Jeremy said. We would have science wizards. We would be, and I hate to do this. I hate to take this to Warhammer. I'd hate to be that guy who I have 100% support in the room to interject Warhammer into this. If things became that universe, America would be the empire because that's all religion and God, Warhammer's great. Is it just space Catholicism? You hit 40. And I'm not 40. I'm 36, so I did this early. But you get into Warhammer. You get into Warhammer or birding, which I did both, actually. I really got into bird. I've made enough videos about birding, but I love bird. And I had this thought about the bird sanctuary. Have you been to the Montrose Bird Sanctuary? It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I go all the time. You look at the plovers. You go look at Amani and Sea Rocket. Those are the chicks' names. Amani, I've said this before, possibly Armenian. That's an Armenian name. That bird, if you zoom in on a, telegraphic thing, on a nice camera, you're going to see that it's wearing a gold chain. And it drives a white BMW, and it lives in Glendale, Los Angeles. That's Amani. But, you look at the red-winged blackbirds, which are evil. You've been attacked by a red-winged blackbird? They dive down at people. I've said this, and I'll say it again. If there was a bird White House, the red-winged blackbirds would have stormed the Capitol. They are nasty, nasty birds. But here's my pitch to Chicago for the bird sanctuary. We put some weird birds in there. We spice things up. We throw a couple emus. We throw a couple, what are the ones with the feathers? Peacocks. We throw a couple peacocks in there. We throw some, we spice it up for everybody. We spice it up for the birds and we spice it up for the visitors. Hey, you like red-winged blackbirds? Here's an emu. Also can run 45 miles an hour, and it's got talons. It's got knives for feet, so don't bring your little Frenchie bulldog. An emu would I imagine an emu would destroy your Frenchie or your pug. Pugs shouldn't even be alive. It sounds like you're trying to dry start a lawnmower, and it's just breathing. Scientists are getting away with too much when it comes to nature. I have a joke about this, and I'll talk about it right now. They're giving cocaine to rats. This is one of my favorite things to talk about on stage. Why are they giving cocaine to rats? Why are we wasting cocaine on an animal that already looks like it does cocaine all the time? Have you ever seen a rat? They look like criminals. They are criminals. They steal they go into dumpsters. Well, stealing from a dumpster is not really stealing, but you get my point. Rats are on drugs. They look like they're on drugs. Why are we giving them cocaine? Give cocaine call yourself a scientist. You're giving cocaine to a rat that doesn't need it. Give it to an animal. Give cocaine to a sloth. Now we're doing science. Now we're learning stuff about cocaine and sloths and nature. What is a sloth? I feel like you give the right amount of cocaine to a sloth, he's going to start a small business with him and his other sloth friends. I think most animals are going to do. There's not an animal in the world that's going to do cocaine and not go in a bathroom and talk about being an entrepreneur. Cocaine should be legal. If I had any on me, I'd do a bump right now. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't do one on camera. It's not sexy doing cocaine. People think it is because the movies have made doing cocaine look sexy. As a sometimes user of the product, I'll tell you right now, it's not sexy. A lot of it falls out of your nose. Sometimes, also, you're usually in the movies, these people have golden spoons and big diamond encrusted canisters that they keep it in. No, it's in a dirty bag in your wallet, and you're using a key that's never been cleaned to put, and then the next day you're like, oh, I got a sinus infection. Why? Because you're an idiot. You were doing cocaine off of a stripper's fingernail that's never been cleaned or loved properly. That's a really good question. If a sloth did cocaine, would it just become normal? See, I'll tell you the truth, Jeremy. In my head, I'm imagining a sloth doing cocaine, and he's turning into The Speedy Gonzalez type. Yeah, he's actually going to even out. You're 100% right. I never thought about this. He would even out because the slowness and the that would even out.